The SS Vanguard glided silently through the endless black of the Orion expanse. Stars shimmered like distant lanterns, scattered across the void, but for the crew aboard the Terran exploration ship, space was no quiet backdrop. It was a challenge, a vast puzzle to navigate. Captain Mara Kellen sat in the pilot's chair, her fingers brushing the controls with a practiced grace. Every movement of the ship felt like an extension of her own body, every adjustment precise, every calculation instinctual. "Distance to the nearest star cluster is stable," reported LT. Rin, the ship's navigator. Her voice was calm, steady, almost like the star charts she loved to trace with her mind. "No anomalies detected yet." Mara didn't answer immediately. She kept her eyes on the viewscreen, scanning for anything unusual. It wasn't paranoia. The Orion expanse was famous for its unpredictable gravitational waves and sudden wormholes. One wrong move here, and even the fastest ship could be lost forever. "Keep your eyes open," Mara said finally. "This sector doesn't forgive mistakes." As if on cue, the radar pinged sharply. A fleet of ships had just appeared on the sensors, fast, angular, and moving in formation. They were clearly not explorers. The alien markings on their hulls were unfamiliar, jagged symbols that made Mara's stomach tighten with recognition. "They're following us," Rin said, her voice tense now. "Long-range scans show multiple fighter-class ships. They're fast and well-armed." Mara leaned forward, her mind racing. Humans were considered clever, but in most parts of the galaxy, they were underestimated. Many alien species assumed humans lacked discipline, strategy, or advanced combat skills. That assumption had kept Mara alive more times than she could count. "They think they can catch us," she muttered. "Let's show them they were wrong." The Vanguard surged forward, engines humming. Mara adjusted the trajectory slightly, weaving the ship through a thin belt of asteroids. The aliens accelerated, closing the distance, their massive engines leaving trails of blue fire in the vacuum of space. Lieutenant Jorvax, the alien commander, watched the Terran ship with a mixture of surprise and irritation. "They're unusual," he growled in his native tongue, a series of clicks and hums. "Prepare to engage. These humans should not be able to outmaneuver us." But the Vanguard didn't slow. Mara twisted the controls, sending the ship in a sudden spiral, dodging an asteroid that would have shredded the hull of a slower vessel. The alien ships struggled to follow, some colliding lightly with debris, while others narrowly avoided damage. "Impressive," murmured Rin. "They're not expecting this." "Good," Mara said. Her voice held a sharp edge of satisfaction. "Let's keep it that way." The chase continued, the Vanguard darting through asteroid fields, gliding along the edge of nebula clouds that played havoc with sensors, and skimming dangerously close to gravitational anomalies. Mara relied on instinct as much as skill, predicting where the aliens would try to cut corners and setting traps along the way. She didn't have weapons that could match the fleet in direct firepower, but she didn't need them. Humans had something alien technology could not anticipate: imagination under pressure. As the minutes stretched into tense hours, the alien commander's frustration became evident. The aliens attempted coordinated maneuvers, trying to flank the Vanguard, but every move Mara made countered their strategy. She activated decoy drones, sending false signatures to confuse the pursuers. The aliens fired, but the drones led their weapons harmlessly into empty space. "Captain, they're starting to separate," Rin said, excitement creeping into her voice. "They're losing formation." Mara's lips curled into a small smile. "Good. Let's see how they handle the next move." She guided the ship into a dense nebula, its swirling clouds of gas and dust rendering sensors nearly useless. The aliens followed blindly, their reliance on technology becoming a liability. Vanguard slipped through gaps in the nebula, weaving with the confidence of a creature born in the void. The alien fleet struggled to adapt. Some ships collided with hidden asteroids, Others were forced to brake, losing precious momentum. Inside the Vanguard, the crew felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. They were humans, yes, but every member of the crew had trained for situations like this. And yet, Mara knew that even the best planning couldn't account for every danger. Space was merciless. "We're drawing them deeper into the cluster," Mara said, scanning the sensors. "And I like it. Keep an eye on any gravitational anomalies. They're going to need all the luck they can get." Minutes later, Rin's voice took on an urgent tone. "Captain, I'm detecting something unusual. There's a strong gravitational fluctuation ahead. Could be a rift or a micro-wormhole." Mara's eyes narrowed. The expanse was full of dangerous anomalies, but they could be turned to advantage. Humans had a knack for turning threats into opportunities. "Plot a course through it," she ordered. "We'll see if our friends back there can handle a little chaos." The Vanguard shuddered as it entered the gravitational fluctuation. Space seemed to twist around the ship, stars bending unnaturally, lights flickering across the viewscreen. The ship groaned under the pressure, but Mara held steady, guiding it with skill born of countless hours in space. Behind them, the alien fleet was less fortunate. Their larger, less maneuverable ships began to struggle. Engines strained, shields flickered, and some ships drifted dangerously close to the edges of the rift. Mara allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. This was what humans did best, turning the impossible into advantage. "Captain, we're clear on the other side," Rin reported, relief evident in her voice. "No damage, minimal stress on the hull, but the aliens, they're taking heavy strain." Mara exhaled, though her mind was already racing ahead. "Good. Keep scanning for anomalies. If we can keep them off balance, we might just make it through this chase unscathed." The alien commander, Jorvax, bellowed orders at his fleet, but the humans' improvisation had left him scrambling. They weren't just fast or strong, they were unpredictable. And in a universe where predictability was a weapon, unpredictability was deadly. Hours passed, and the chase became a test of endurance. Mara guided the Vanguard through asteroid belts, across ion storms, and along the jagged edges of a collapsing star system. Each maneuver was daring, each decision calculated yet instinctual. She felt a thrill that was equal parts fear and excitement. This was human ingenuity at its finest, a combination of courage, skill, and raw cleverness. Finally, as the alien fleet began to falter, Mara allowed herself a small smile. "They're not going to catch us," she said quietly. "Not because the Terrans were stronger or faster, but because they were smarter, resourceful, unpredictable." Rin looked at her, eyes wide. "Captain, what now?" Mara's gaze hardened, fixed on the distant stars ahead. "Now we keep moving, and soon we turn the tables." For the first time in hours, the crew felt a sense of hope. The Terrans had survived the chase, but survival was just the beginning. In the darkness of the Orion expanse, a storm was coming, and humans were ready to face it. As the Vanguard sped onward, trailing streaks of light across the void, one thing became clear. The aliens had underestimated humanity. And that was a mistake they would soon regret. The SS Vanguard moved silently through the expanse, but this time it was no longer running blindly. Captain Mara Kellen had studied the alien fleet's behavior, observed their reactions, and now she saw an opportunity. The chase had taught her something crucial. The aliens were fast, powerful, but rigid. They relied heavily on technology and assumed any human ship would act predictably. That was their mistake. "Captain, the fleet is fragmented," reported Lieutenant Rin, eyes glued to the main sensor screen. "Two of their cruisers are lagging behind. Their formation is broken." Mara's lips curved into a faint, confident smile. "Good. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Let's see how they handle a little chaos." She studied the holographic display of the surrounding star systems. A dense asteroid cluster lay ahead, dotted with pockets of gravitational turbulence. On the map, one anomaly stood out, a shimmering, unstable rift that pulsed with energy. It was dangerous, unpredictable, but it could serve as the perfect trap. "Plot a course through the rift," Mara ordered, "and prepare all decoys and sensor jammers. We're going to lead them right into it." Rin's eyes widened. "Captain, it's risky. The rift could tear the ship apart if we miscalculate." Mara's hands rested lightly on the controls, her voice calm, firm. "That's why we'll do it carefully. Humans don't just survive, they adapt. Trust me." The crew exchanged glances. They trusted Mara, not because they always knew the plan, but because her instincts had kept them alive in the harshest situations. The Vanguard surged forward, weaving through the asteroid belt with precision, the rift growing larger on the sensors. The alien ships, still recovering from their earlier chaos, followed blindly, driven by overconfidence and the desire to capture or destroy the Terran vessel. Jorvax, the alien commander, gritted his mandibles in frustration. "Do not let them escape," he hissed. "Push through the turbulence. They cannot outthink us forever." But Mara had already anticipated this. She triggered the decoy drones, scattering false sensor readings in multiple directions. The aliens' scanners lit up with signals from every angle. Some of their ships veered off course, colliding with small asteroids. Others scrambled to adjust, losing precious speed. Inside the Vanguard, tension mixed with exhilaration. Crew members checked and rechecked their instruments, ready to act at a moment's notice. Humans thrived under pressure, and this was pressure at its peak. "Prepare for the rift," Mara said. "Engage manual stabilization. I'll guide us through." The Vanguard approached the rift, and the ship groaned as gravitational forces tugged at the hull. Lights flickered across the cabin, and the instruments read dangerously high fluctuations. Mara's hands danced across the controls, adjusting thrusters, redirecting power, and keeping the ship on a stable path. "Now, Mara, now!" Rin shouted. The aliens were close behind, and any hesitation could cost them everything. The ship shuddered as it passed into the rift. Stars twisted and bent unnaturally, creating a disorienting kaleidoscope of light. Mara's stomach churned, but her focus never wavered. She had guided through worse, and she knew that precision and calm were their only way out. Behind them, the alien fleet was less fortunate. Their larger, heavier ships were not designed for the sudden turbulence. Engines strained, shields flickered, and some cruisers were caught in the edge of the rift's gravitational pull. Mara's eyes scanned the sensors, noting each alien ship struggling against the forces. "They're losing control," Rin reported, almost in disbelief. "Several cruisers are stuck, their thrusters can't compensate." Mara nodded. "Exactly, let's make sure they stay there." The Vanguard darted between gravitational pockets, moving with agility that no alien ship could match. Mara used every bit of her experience to exploit the terrain, skimming close to asteroid surfaces, swinging around energy anomalies, and using the rift's unpredictable currents to keep distance between her ship and the pursuing fleet. One of the alien cruisers fired blindly, its energy beams slicing through the rift, only to hit an asteroid that Mara had anticipated. The blast ricocheted harmlessly into space. Mara smirked. The aliens were powerful, but power without adaptability was useless. "They're panicking," said Ensign Talo, monitoring the alien ship communications. "Their command structure is breaking down. I can hear Jorvax screaming orders." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Good, let's push them a little further. Rin, prepare the final decoy sequence. We're going to make them think there's a safe exit, but there is." The ship glided into a particularly narrow channel of the rift, barely wide enough for a single vessel. Mara adjusted the trajectory, nudging the ship just past a cluster of spinning debris. The alien ships, desperate to follow, were forced into the same channel. Some collided, some barely avoided disaster, but all were forced into close proximity, unable to maneuver freely. "Captain, we're clear," Rin said. "No damage to the hull." But the aliens, they're in serious trouble. Their formation is completely compromised. Mara allowed herself a faint smile. That's what happens when you underestimate humans. The vanguard continued, weaving through the twisting rift, while the aliens struggled to maintain control. Energy readings from their ships indicated overheating engines and failing shields. Every second in the rift added to their disaster. Mara didn't attack directly. She didn't need to. The environment itself had become a weapon in human hands. Hours passed, and the aliens' situation grew worse. One cruiser was pulled violently against a massive asteroid, tearing open a section of its hull. Another ship's engines failed, leaving it drifting helplessly as the rift's currents battered it. Mara and her crew watched, grim but focused, knowing that victory was not yet complete. "Captain, one of their ships is signaling surrender," Talo said. "But the others, they're still trying to pursue us." Mara shook her head. "No, we don't accept surrender, not yet. Let's finish this cleanly." She adjusted the Vanguard's course toward a cluster of gravitational anomalies within the rift, a natural maze of forces that could crush or tear apart even the toughest ship if navigated poorly. The alien ships, still driven by pride and anger, followed blindly. Mara guided her crew expertly, twisting and turning the ship through the maze with pinpoint accuracy. She anticipated every shift in gravity, every current of energy, keeping the Vanguard safe while the pursuing fleet struggled and collided with the hazards around them. From her seat, Mara could almost feel the tension of the alien fleet. They were powerful, yes, but inhumanly rigid. They could not adapt to the unpredictable, chaotic environment that humans thrived in. Every failed maneuver, every collision, every scrambled signal was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. "Captain," Rin said, voice tight with awe, they're breaking apart. Their engines are overheating, shields failing. Some ships are already drifting out of the rift uncontrollably." Mara's gaze remained steady. "We've done our part. Now we let the rift do the rest." For the first time, the crew allowed themselves a moment of satisfaction. Humans had turned the tables on the aliens. What began as a desperate chase had become a carefully executed trap, showcasing not brute strength, but cleverness, courage, and adaptability. The Vanguard moved safely through the last stretch of the rift, emerging into calmer space. Behind them, the alien fleet had suffered heavy losses. Some ships were destroyed entirely, torn apart by gravitational forces or collisions with debris. Others drifted helplessly, disabled and stranded in the void. Only a few managed to escape with severe damage, carrying back a warning of the humans' capabilities. Mara allowed herself a deep breath, feeling the weight of the chase and the victory. She turned to her crew. "This was a test, not just of our skills, but of our ability to stay calm, to think creatively, and to trust each other. We've passed." Rin nodded, exhaustion and relief written across her face. "They'll never underestimate humans again." Mara's eyes hardened, staring at the stars ahead. "They may not," she said quietly, "but the galaxy is full of dangers, and for every challenge humans will be ready." As the Vanguard glided forward, leaving the wreckage and chaos of the rift behind, Mara reflected on the events. Humanity was small, fragile in the vastness of space, but it was also unpredictable, resourceful, and resilient. These were the traits that would allow humans to survive, to thrive, and to stand out in a universe that often underestimated them. And somewhere deep in the void, the alien commander Jorvax watched the aftermath, humiliated and enraged, realizing a hard truth. Humans were not just clever, they were unstoppable when cornered. The SS Vanguard sailed through calm space, leaving the chaos of the rift far behind. Captain Mara Kellen leaned back in her chair, her eyes still scanning the stars, alert as always. Her crew was exhausted but exhilarated. They had survived an impossible chase and executed a trap that left the alien fleet in shambles. Yet Mara knew the mission wasn't over. The galaxy was unpredictable and overconfidence could be deadly. "Status report," Mara commanded. Her voice was calm but carried authority. "Hull integrity is stable," Lieutenant Rin replied. "All systems are functioning at optimal levels. No damage from the rift." "Crew morale is high." Mara allowed herself a faint smile. Humans had endured, adapted, and overcome, but the true test was still unfolding. "Sensor sweep," Mara ordered. "Let's see what remains of the alien fleet." On the main display, the result was worse than Mara expected, yet not entirely surprising. Several alien ships had been destroyed outright in the rift, torn apart by gravitational anomalies or collisions with asteroids. A few cruisers remained, drifting helplessly, engines offline, shields shattered. Only a handful of their fleet had escaped entirely, but even they bore severe damage. "They're scattered," Rin said, pointing at the display. "Their command structure is broken. Communications are intermittent. They're vulnerable." Mara's gaze hardened. "Good. That vulnerability is dangerous for them and an opportunity for us. We need to leave them with a message they won't forget. Humans are not prey." The crew understood her immediately. The goal was not only survival but asserting the Terran reputation for ingenuity and resilience. Humanity did not back down. Humanity did not surrender. Several hours passed as the Vanguard continued to glide silently, giving the alien survivors space to regroup or fail to. Mara remained vigilant, her hands never far from the controls. The expanse, though calmer now, was still unpredictable, full of gravitational anomalies, radiation pockets, and drifting debris from destroyed ships. Every hazard could be a trap or a shield if used wisely. "Captain," Rin said suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings ahead. Multiple signatures, possibly remnants of their engines or weapon systems. They're unstable." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Let's take a closer look, but we proceed cautiously. One wrong step, and even we could be in danger." As they approached, the Vanguard entered an area littered with wreckage from the alien fleet. Sparks of energy flared as damaged ships emitted radiation, and drifting debris moved unpredictably through the zero-gravity void. Mara maneuvered carefully, weaving the ship between floating fragments with precision. "Impressive," Talo, the weapons officer, muttered. "They underestimated the rift and us." Mara didn't answer immediately. Her mind was calculating possibilities. The aliens were desperate, angry, and dangerous. Any remaining ships could attempt a final attack or try to flee and warn their allies. Either scenario required attention. "Deploy long-range sensor pulses," Mara ordered. "Let's see if any of them are operational enough to follow us." The sensors revealed a startling sight. One alien cruiser, damaged but functional, had begun to stabilize its engines. Another was attempting to regroup with the smaller surviving vessels. Mara's heart raced, not with fear but anticipation. Humans thrived on turning danger into advantage. "Prepare the decoy drones," Mara commanded. "We'll finish what we started." The crew worked quickly, releasing drones that emitted false sensor signals, mimicking the signature of the Vanguard. The alien ships detected these signatures and, thinking they had located the Terran ship, moved toward them aggressively. Mara's eyes gleamed. "Perfect. Now we let the environment do the rest." She guided the Vanguard through a series of gravitational pockets, each one more unstable than the last. The alien ships, fooled by the decoys and desperate to attack, followed without caution. Engines strained, shields flickered, and one by one, the remaining vessels became trapped in the anomalies. Mara watched as an alien cruiser collided with a drifting asteroid, tearing a massive hole in its hull. Another ship spun uncontrollably, slamming into debris with catastrophic force. The Vanguard remained untouched, gliding with unmatched agility through the chaotic battlefield. Mara's crew watched in awe as human ingenuity and courage turned the situation entirely in their favor. The aliens' own arrogance and dependence on rigid systems had become their undoing. "Captain," Rin said, voice tense. They're trying to communicate. Incoming messages, fragmented, panicked. Mara leaned forward, listening. The alien commander's voice crackled over the comms, full of rage and disbelief. How is this possible? Their ships, they move unpredictably like nothing we've seen. A grim smile crossed Mara's face. Exactly, that's humanity. Hours passed, and one by one, the alien ships were destroyed, disabled, or forced into retreat. Only a single vessel remained operational, limping away from the wreckage. Mara allowed herself a moment to reflect on the events. Humans had survived an impossible pursuit, had outwitted a technologically superior force, and had turned the battlefield into a testament of their ingenuity and resilience. Course set for home, Mara said finally. We've done all we can here. Let's return before more surprises find us. The Vanguard moved steadily toward safer space. The crew allowed themselves brief smiles, but their focus remained sharp. In the galaxy, survival was never guaranteed, and humans had learned that the hard way. Yet in every challenge they had shown courage, adaptability, and intelligence, traits that no alien could fully anticipate. Captain, Talo said, breaking the quiet, they'll talk about this. Other species, they'll hear about the Terrans who survived the rift and defeated an entire fleet. Mara's eyes softened slightly, but her gaze remained firm on the stars ahead. They will. And when they do, they'll learn the same lesson we've always known. Humans are not just clever, we are relentless. We adapt, we survive, and we never underestimate our opponents or ourselves. Rin nodded. We turned a chase into a victory without firing a single shot. Mara allowed a small laugh. Sometimes brains beat brawn, and sometimes survival is the greatest weapon of all. As the Vanguard sailed through the quiet void, the crew reflected on their journey. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown dangers, but it was also a place where humans could thrive. Not because of superior technology or brute force, but because of something uniquely theirs: ingenuity, courage, and the will to survive against impossible odds. Far behind them, the wreckage of the alien fleet drifted, a silent monument to human resilience. The survivors would carry tales of the Terrans' daring maneuvers, of their unpredictable strategies, and of a single ship that had turned a pursuit into a disaster for an entire alien armada. For Captain Mara Kellen and her crew, it was another mission completed, another testament to humanity's place in the galaxy. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, not through sheer power, but through cleverness, courage, and an unyielding spirit. And in the endless darkness of space, that spirit would continue to shine. Humans were small, fragile in the grand expanse of the universe, but they were unstoppable when they worked together, when they thought beyond the obvious, and when they refused to give up. Mara looked at her crew, a mixture of pride and quiet satisfaction filling her chest. "We survived," she said simply, "and the galaxy is taking note." The Vanguard sailed onward, leaving behind the ruins of the alien fleet, a warning etched in space: never underestimate humans.